Hello and welcome to ASMR with ChatGPT and Kate. Today I'm going to do a slightly different format. I'm going to read one story and then resubmit the keywords and read a second story. So it'll be similar, it'll be the same topics, but ChatGPT should be creative enough, based on what I've seen, to create two different stories. So we'll see how it turns out. Hopefully, at the least, it'll be relaxing. So just take a deep breath. Maybe a second deep breath. Get your earplugs in, get all ready to go, and we will get started. Alright. Once upon a time, in a land far, far away, there lived a king who was known for his harshness and cruelty towards his subjects. His daughter, the princess, had grown tired of her father's ways and secretly yearned for true love. One day, as she was strolling in the castle gardens, she stumbled upon a handsome fireman who was on the run from the law. Despite his rough exterior, the princess found herself drawn to him, and they soon fell deeply in love. But the romance was threatened by the king's villainous advisor, who was determined to put an end to their love story. He ordered his army of gnomes to hunt down the fugitives and imprison them in the castle's hidden dungeons. Desperate to escape, the lovers discovered a secret hiding place within the castle walls. But as they hid away, the kingdom was struck by the deadly Black Plague, which ravaged the land and claimed countless lives. The fireman, who had once risked his life to save others, now turned his efforts to saving the kingdom from the deadly disease. He worked alongside the king's doctors and nurses, using his skills and bravery to help those in need. As the plague subsided, the king finally recognized the true heroism of the firemen and gave his blessing to the couple's love. The princess and the fireman lived happily ever after in a castle filled with love and compassion, where the harshness of the past had been replaced by a bright, hopeful future. Well, that was a pretty short story, so I'm gonna go ahead and resubmit and see if maybe it will create a slightly better one. I won't say it was my favorite story, but we'll see what it comes up with next. It's just taking a moment to write. Alright. Once upon a time, in a faraway land, there was a beautiful princess named Isabella. She lived in a magnificent castle with her father, the king, and an army of loyal firemen. Isabella had everything she could ever want, except for one thing: true love. She dreamed of finding her perfect match, but the kingdom was being ravaged by the Black Plague, and loved seemed like a distant dream. One day, while exploring the castle gardens, Isabella stumbled upon a group of gnomes who were hiding in a secret place. They warned her that there were fugitives on the loose who were plotting to overthrow the king and seize the throne. Isabella was frightened, but she was also curious. She asked the gnomes if they knew anything about the whereabouts of the fugitives. To her surprise, one of the gnomes revealed that he had seen them flee to a remote corner of the kingdom. Without hesitation, Isabella set out on a journey to find the fugitives and bring them to justice. On her way, she met a brave fireman named Jack, who offered to accompany her on her quest. As they delved deeper into the forest, they encountered all kinds of obstacles and villains. But with Jack's help, Isabella managed to overcome them all. Finally, after many hardships, Isabella and Jack arrived at the fugitives' hiding place. There, they found a handsome young man named Peter, who had been wrongly accused of the crimes. Isabella was swept off her feet by Peter's charms and knew that he was the true love she had been searching for. Together, they returned to the castle and revealed the true villain behind the plot to overthrow the king. The king was so grateful to Isabella and Jack for their bravery that he crowned Peter as his new heir. And so, Isabella and Peter lived happily ever after in the majestic castle, surrounded by their friends and the gnomes who had helped them along the way. I'm noticing a bit of a theme with the stories that they overcome many trials and tribulations, or they create a plan and they overcome the obstacles, but it never quite describes how they create the plan or how they overcome the obstacles. It's a little bit like a Hallmark movie where it's just kind of glazed over and done very quickly. So some of these stories are a little bit anticlimactic, but it is before bedtime, so maybe they're not supposed to be that stressful. So I think maybe I'll do one more and then we'll call it a night, and hopefully you're already sleeping, but if you're not, there's one more story in store, and then we can say goodnight. I'm just waiting for ChatGPT. Man, it really likes the name Isabella. That was not something I put in. Alright. Once upon a time, there was a beautiful princess named Isabella who lived in a grand castle with her father, the king. Isabella was known for her incredible beauty and her potential to marry a prince from a neighboring kingdom. However, Isabella was in love with the castle's fireman, a handsome and brave man named Jacob. They had met by accident when Jacob had rescued her from a fire that had broken out in the castle. Since then, they'd fallen deeply in love and would often meet in secret at various hiding places throughout the castle. Unfortunately, their love was threatened by a sinister villain, a gnome named Mordecai, who had been jealous of Isabella's beauty since childhood. Mordecai had been plotting revenge for years, and had recently contracted the Black Plague to cause chaos and destruction in the kingdom. He had also accused Jacob of being a fugitive and secretly working for their enemies. The king, who had been manipulated by Mordecai, ordered Jacob's immediate capture and imprisonment in a dungeon far away from the castle. Isabella was devastated, but was determined to save her true love. She used her wit and charm to appeal to the firemen in the kingdom, and they planned a daring rescue mission. They managed to free Jacob, and together with the help of the kingdom's army, they attacked Mordecai's stronghold, a hidden castle in the mountains. After a fierce battle, they finally defeated the villain and brought peace and prosperity to the kingdom. Jacob and Isabella were finally able to publicly declare their love and were granted the king's blessing to marry. And so, Isabella and Jacob lived happily ever after in the Green Castle, where they would tell their children and grandchildren about their epic love story and the adventures they'd had together. That was an interesting plan that Mordecai had to contract the Black Plague, but yeah, no comment on that. Like I said, hopefully you are either sleeping or close to sleeping, and I hope you enjoyed tonight's stories and that you have a good night's sleep. Thank you for watching, and